Hello everybody. Today we're continuing with lesson 5.1 Trigonometric Identities. We're going to do some problems from the textbook. Let's start with number 3. It says if tangent alpha equals 1 over 5, find cotangent alpha. Again, we're going to use some of the trigonometric identities that we learned about. We know that cotangent alpha equals 1 over tangent alpha. That means 1 over 5, which is 5. So this one was pretty easy and straightforward. Please pause the video at any time to go over what we did and try to do that yourself. Alright? Now we have problem number 7. If cosecant alpha equals 7 over 3 and cotangent alpha equals 2 square root of 10 over 3, find secant alpha. This is a little bit more complicated. Let's take it step by step. So, we know that cosecant equals 7 over 3, which means sine alpha equals 1 over cosecant alpha equals 1 over 7 over 3 equals 3 over 7. So that's number 1. Now, we know cotangent alpha equals cosine alpha over sine alpha. That's the quotient identity, which means cosine alpha equals cross multiplication sine alpha times cotangent alpha. We've just found sine alpha, 3 over 7 times cotangent alpha, which we already have, 2 square root of 10 over 3. 3's cancel out, equals 2 square root of 10 over 7. That's the cosine. We want the secant. Now the secant alpha, according to the reciprocal identity, equals 1 over cosine alpha, which we just found here. So 1 over 2 square root of 10 over 7 equals 7 over 2 square root of 10. Multiply both by square root of 10 equals 7 square root of 10 over 10 times 2 is 20. And that's our answer. Please pause the video and try to make sense of that. Now moving on to number 13, we want to find cosine theta and tangent theta, given that cosecant theta equals 8 over 3 and tangent theta is positive. For these type of questions, we need to find which quadrant we're dealing with. Now we know the tangent is positive, so it's either here or here. And cosecant is 8 over 3, which is positive. That means the sign is positive, so it's definitely right here, because right here everything is positive. So this is quadrant number 1. Now let's continue. What we have is cosecant theta equals 8 over 3. Now from the Pythagorean identities, we know that cotangent square theta plus 1 equals cosecant square theta. That means cotangent square theta equals, move the 1 right here, equals cosecant square minus 1. That's 8 over 3 square minus 1. 64 over 9 minus 1 equals 55 over 9. That's cotangent square. Now cotangent theta equals square root of that, square root of 55 over 3. it's either positive or negative. But because we're dealing with quadrant 1, we're only looking at the positive solution for that. So now we found cotangent. Alright? And again, since we have the cosecant, sine theta equals 1 over cosecant theta, which is 1 over 8 over 3 equals 3 over 8. So now we have the sine and we have the cotangent. Alright? Now cotangent, according to the quotient rule, equals cosine theta over sine theta, which means cosine theta equals sine theta times cotangent theta equals sine theta is 3 over 8 times cotangent theta square root of 55 over 3. So square root of 55 over 8. So now we found cosine theta. Now we need tangent theta. Tangent theta equals sine theta over cosine theta. This is cosine theta and this is sine theta. So 3 over 8 over square root of 55 over 8. So 3 over square root of 55 equals 3 square root of 55 over 55. Please pause the video and go over this one more time. Let's look at another example similar to the one that we did. Number 15. We want to find cotangent theta and sine theta, given that secant theta equals minus 9 over 2 and sine theta is greater than 0. Again, we want to know which quadrant we're dealing with. Secant is negative, that means the cosine is negative. So it's either right here or right here. And since the sine is positive, so it's definitely this quadrant. So quadrant number 2. Alright? So in quadrant number 2, the cotangent will be negative and the sine will be positive. Okay, let's get to it. We have secant theta equals minus 9 over 2. Okay, going to start differently than last time. Now cosecant theta equals 1 over secant theta equals 1 over minus 9 over 2 equals minus 2 over 9. Alright, now since we have the secant theta, we can find tangent theta. Tangent square theta plus 1 equals secant square theta. That means tangent square theta equals secant square theta minus 1 equals minus 9 minus 9 over 2 square minus 1 equals 81 over 4 minus 1 equals 77 over 4. That means tangent, which is the square root of that, equals square root of 77 over 4 plus or minus equals square root of 77 over 2. And since we're in the second quadrant, the tangent will be negative. Okay? Now, since we found the tangent, we can find the cotangent. Cotangent theta equals 1 over tangent theta equals minus 2 over square root of 77 minus 2 square root of 77 over 77. So now we have cotangent. Alright, now we need to find the sine. Now, tangent theta equals sine theta over cosine theta. Alright, that means sine theta equals tangent theta times cosine theta equals tangent, we just found that, minus square root of 77 over 2 times cosine minus 2 over 9. 2 cancels out with the 2. Negative signs, we cancel out each other. So square root of 77 over 9. Pause the video and look at this one more time. Alright, moving on to number 17. If cosecant theta equals minus 1 over minus 1.24, find secant theta minus pi over 2. Now, from the even and odd identities, we know that the secant function is an even function, which means secant theta minus pi over 2 equals secant the negative, cosecant the negative of that, equal cosecant sorry for that. So because the secant is an even function, that means sine minus theta equals secant theta equals secant minus theta. So if we reverse this, secant theta minus pi over 2 equals secant pi over 2 minus theta. These two are, you know, the reverse of each other. Now, and from the cofunction identities, we know that secant pi over 2 minus theta equals cosecant theta. We're given that cosecant theta is minus 1.24, which means that this one equals minus 1.24. Pause the video and again go over this. This is a pretty easy one. Alright, last one for today, number 19. If tangent theta equals minus 1.52, find cotangent theta minus pi over 2. Now, cotangent is an odd function, so which means that cotangent theta minus pi over 2 equals minus cotangent theta or pi over 2 minus theta. And using the cofunction identities, cotangent pi over 2 minus theta equals tangent theta. And since tangent theta is minus 1.52, so it's minus 1.52 equals plus 1.52, and that's it. Please pause the video and look at this one more time.